Well, good afternoon, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Tuesday, March 26th, 2024, and middle of the afternoon. As you can see, I'm coming to you from the man cave. It's another cold, rainy day. It's a little too warm to snow, but it's raining off and on, and it's supposed to rain all afternoon. So I haven't posted a video in a few days, and I started filming one on Saturday, and I didn't like the direction it was going, and it was an event thing, so it wasn't something I could reshoot. And so after I looked at it, I decided, no, and I threw it away. And the one I'm going to try to talk about today, I've been thinking about that ever since, and it's kind of a long subject, and I've sat down 2 or 3 times and tried to get my thoughts together to talk about it, but I haven't been successful, so we'll try it this time and see if this works. And anyway, here earlier this month, I turned 75 years old. And there's nothing to open your eyes more than realizing, that all of a sudden now you're old, and you didn't expect it. You knew it was coming eventually, at least you thought so. And then all of a sudden you're kind of there, and no matter how well you think you're prepared for it, you're really not. And what prompted me to sit down and talk to you this afternoon is I had to go over to the doctor's office for a blood test this morning, and while I was there, I ran into an old friend, a guy and his wife that I've known for many, many, many years, and hadn't talked to him for a long time. And anyway, they were there, and so after we did our hellos, and I shook his hand and hugged his wife, and she told me that he was up talking to the lady at the window at the doctor's office, and she kind of pulled me aside, and she told me that they were there to get set up with hospice because he's been diagnosed with an inoperable type of cancer, and the doctor told him he's got about 3 more months. And so they're confronting big decisions in their life, and he knows that he's pretty close to the end of his personal trail. And so, the bottom line is I am too. I guess when we're born, we're allotted a certain number of days in our life, but we're not told that, so we really don't know. But every day that goes by, you're a little bit closer. And when you hit 75, you've obviously used up the vast majority of those days. And it'll really make you stop and think and sit back and kind of ponder, what you've learned, what you should have done different, and what you want to do to spend the rest of your time on this earth until you go on to whatever's next. And whatever's next depends on what your belief system is. So anyway, I thought I'd kind of share some thoughts, I guess would be the best way to put it, and talk about some things I wish I'd done a little bit different. And by and large, I've had a very interesting life. I've been able to do a lot of things. I've been able to go a lot of places, and I chose a line of work that I believe helped people. As those of you that have watched my videos before know that I was in the fire service for a total of 44 years, and 34 of those as a responder. And then I got into fire prevention and education, and I taught for many years at community college level, off and on, from the early 80s all the way up until just a few years ago when I finally decided to pull the plug and retire. And during those years, I think, firefighters are I guess the quintessential helpers. We help people through a lot of people we see during the worst times of their life. And I don't want to get off on that tangent because we probably talked about that stuff before, but I think I chose a career that made a difference, and it's given me a pension to allow me to retire and to allow me to at least eat regular and keep a roof over my head, although inflation has vastly outpaced what the increases in my retirement system, so I'm not a wealthy guy. But just the fact that I'm able to sit here in a nice, dry, warm place, and I say warm because I'm sitting next to my heater. It's kind of cold out here in the man cave today. But nothing that, but knowing that, that the end is somewhere down there, and it makes you reflect. And so that's kind of what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. And it's hopefully this won't be too much of a ramble, but I think probably the vast majority of the people that are watching this are probably a little bit younger than I am, although I'm sure there's some people my age and there's some people older than me that have already reached this milestone of being 75, and they're handling it in their own however they handle it. But so what's important in your life? I think a lot of us, we get so carried away with our jobs and our career and everything that's going on that I think an awful lot of us don't take a lot of me time, and a lot of us don't sit down in a dark room and have a talk with ourselves, or go out. I always talk about going out in the woods and sitting on a log somewhere, and just asking yourself what you want to achieve and what's important. And and I was real bad about not doing that. Just throughout most of my career, of course, as a fire chief, that's a 24/7, 365 job, and you can never really get away from it, no matter how hard you try. And so for a long time, the job in my life was number one. I put it ahead of everything, and I paid the personal price for that, and in a number of different regards. But after I retired, I had a chance to start expanding and doing stuff for me and what I like to do. And I learned a long time ago that, you do have to every once in a while sit down in a dark room and have a talk with yourself and decide what's important and what direction you want to go. And so have I made mistakes? Of course I have. Everybody does. I'd like to think that I've probably done more things right than I've done things wrong. I'm a cancer survivor, and I had some pretty significant health issues, and I managed to resolve them. My cancer surgery last summer was a big wake-up call. It's a little over 10 months now, and I'm about 9.5% back to normal. And still got some little lingering after effects, but I don't want to talk about that here. But basically, it makes you think. Have you been a good person? What could you have done different? One of the things I can say flat out is that I wasn't the best steward in the world of money. When I had money, I spent it, and I knew I had to. I was pretty sure I was going to make it long enough to get through my retirement. So I kind of put all my eggs in that basket financially. Should I have done more? Should I save more? Yeah, I should have. Should I have paid a little bit more attention to investments maybe, and invested a little money? And maybe if I'd have done okay with that, I'd probably be in a better position today. But, all that's water under the bridge, and I can't go back and change that now. But what I will tell you is that even if you have money, when your time comes, you can't take it with you. You're better off to die with less money and more memories and more experiences, because that's what you take with you, is what you remember and what you've done and what you've seen and the people you've known. So I always tell you, take care of yourself, take care of your own mental health and your own, I was very bad about my medical condition, or my physical conditioning. They always talk about firefighters being in good condition. Well, one of the things that we didn't do, I spent most of my time driving a desk because I was a supervisor. So I never actually worked the shift work that firefighters work. They would, a third of the time on and 2/3 of the time off. Always used to be 24 hours on, 48 hours off, and now most of them now are going toward a 48-96 shift. So they're on 2 days and they're off 4 days, and that's pretty popular with the guys. As looking back on it as a fire chief, I wonder whether that 48-hour shift might be a little bit too long and might beat you up too bad, especially if you're up all night that first night. But the guys like it because they have 4 days off every time they get off shift, and I can certainly see that from their perspective. But that means it gives you. I never worked that. I never had the luxury of working that. I worked a few shifts, but most of the time I worked shifts, I was covering for somebody because they were either off in training or off on something they wanted to do, and so I'd offer to go sit in their seat for them on the truck. So what can I say about working as a firefighter? Basically, I loved it. There were some times I didn't love it. And yeah, you saw a lot of human tragedy. But if I could roll back the clock now 30 years and be sitting in that seat looking at the world through the windshield of a fire truck, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because I absolutely loved it. It's a tough job, but it's also a challenging job. It challenges you physically. It challenges you mentally, especially mentally. That great unknown. You never know when you pull out that door. You never know what you're going to. But it's a very worthwhile job. But I'm getting away from my original subject here, and I don't want to do that. So I guess a couple of things I'd have done differently. Back in 1998, when I retired from the fire department here, it was the first time I actually retired, and I took a year off, and we took off and went on a big trip we had a big fifth wheel at the time, and we were going to go full-time RVing, and we went out for 7 months, and we decided that we didn't want to go full-time RVing, that it wasn't for us. Maybe we were a little too young. It was different then. It's easier now, because then they didn't have cell phones, didn't have the coverage they have. They certainly didn't have the internet, didn't have Starlink. So it was a little more difficult to be out on the road. There was no such thing as digital nomads who could work on the road, and that kind of thing. It probably existed in a small way, but not to the extent that it does now. So after we were out for a while, we decided to come back home, and I went back to work, and I did something outside the fire service for a little while. I actually tried selling cars for a while, and quite frankly, I found out I was a little too honest for that line of work, and I don't want to get off on that tangent, but maybe it was just where I worked at, but I just did not fit in with that culture. It was not comfortable for me, so I didn't do it for very long. I love being around cars. I love that part, but the business itself was not something that I choose to remain involved with. Let's just say that. So about that time, I got approached about another fire gig, and so I took that, and then I also managed a 4x4 tour company for a little while, and that was owned by a couple of friends that they were trying to get it established, and neither one of them were Jeepers, and neither one of them were history buffs, and I was both. And so I drove for them, and then they asked me to manage the operation for a little bit. And I actually did that for them, and I told them I will do it for you. And what I will do is I won't take a wage out of it, because we're still trying to get it established and get it going. I said I'll just do it for my tips, and I'll do it as a favor. But if a fire gig comes along that's going to pay me real money, I'll tell you up front, I got to take it. I got to do it. So they didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen either. But after about 6 months, sure enough, I got approached about an interim chief's job. And so I checked into that, and I ended up taking that, and I ended up telling the people that owned the tour company that I had to take this out-of-town chief's gig for a little while. And that was that. And after that one, there was a couple others, and then I got to teaching at the college, and then I became the fire science program coordinator at the college. I did that for 9 years before I retired. And I also ran a grant-funded wildfire risk reduction program. And that was both those were kind of not really full-time gigs. Between the two of them, they were definitely more than full-time. But finally I got old enough. I decided that my phone quit ringing. People quit trying to get me to go back to work, and so I decided it was time to pull the plug. And I've been retired now for several years, and I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do, and I'm absolutely convinced that I want to spend the rest of my time trying to do stuff interesting and trying to expand my horizons. And of course, those of you that watch the channel at all know that I got involved with the Sasquatch, looking for Bigfoot, and found them, and that's a whole nother subject. It's been some of the most amazing experiences of my life. You can go and watch the videos. There's a whole playlist full of them, and believe what you want, but every bit of it, every tell you on there is true. It's all happened. But so what's the bottom line? Well, number one, pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to your health. Do some research on your diet. That was the dog just banged my foot. He's out here with me. That's why the camera jerked. But pay attention to your health. Most of us do not eat healthy. Most of us are eating the standard American diet, which is absolutely full of garbage and preservatives and stuff that's not good for you. I finally resolved my health issues. I was going bad. I was going downhill bad, fast. And I've talked about that before, and I don't want to rehash the whole thing again, but I was able to figure out what was going on. A lot of it had to do with open mind. I realized that, hey, there are people out there that are determined to sell you stuff, and they don't care whether it's good for you or bad for you. They just want to sell you stuff. You see it on TV all the time, and every place you're bombarded with all this stuff. For a long time, I believed that when the packaging on some food item said it was healthy for you, that it was. And, well, the answer is no, it's not. They'll tell you anything. All they want to do is get your money and sell you stuff. And but once you figure that out, and I figured it out, and I took control and got off almost all the meds that I'm on. I'm only on one med anymore, and that's a totally unrelated thing. But in the process, I lost 70 pounds and actually got down. When I got under 160, I actually looked bad. I started looking gaunt and unhealthy. Even I thought so. So I kind of backed off on the strictness of the diet now, and I put about another 10 pounds back on. And so right now I'm about where I think I want to be. And I think I look okay. My energy level's good. So I can go out and do this kind of stuff. But I'm coming to the conclusion that there's a lot of things that I could always do all my life that I have no business doing anymore. And I have a little problem with my balance, and so I quit riding my bicycle, and I don't have a motorcycle anymore. I rode motorcycles for years, loved them. I'm getting to the point now where I don't trust myself up on a ladder, and so all the garage we're sitting in right now, I actually built that. I framed it all in myself and dried it all in myself, and then I ended up hiring somebody to finish the inside. But it's 2 stories tall. My bedroom is above me, and I can remember climbing up that big old ladder with 3/4 inch plywood, carrying a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood up there by myself when I was putting the roof on it. I actually overbuilt it because I was going to put solar up there. So I got a deal on 3/4 inch plywood, so I bought a whole bunch of it. And so this whole house is built, a 1/2 inch would have been fine, but I built the whole darn thing out of 3/4. But those 3/4 inch plywood was heavy. There's no way in the world I could carry a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood up that ladder to the top floor in a 2-story by myself now. I'd be lucky to put the ladder up there. And I have to accept that. And I'm gradually coming to accept that. I'm gradually coming to accept the fact that, maybe I need to make sure that I understand my limitations. I still get out and walk it pretty much every day. I didn't do it today because of the weather, but take the dog out a couple times a day and try to be active and try not to be a couch potato. And, this stuff on the TV for the most part is garbage. And so I don't watch a lot of that. And I watch a lot of tutorial stuff on YouTube as to how to do stuff, because that's what I'm interested in, is how to learn how to do stuff. And I'll come on to something that maybe something I hadn't even thought of before. It just sort of pops up, and I'll look at that and I'll think, gee, I wonder how to do that. And I'll watch 4 or 5 videos on doing that. And try to keep my mind active. I think keeping your mind active is really important. So I guess if I was going to give anybody any advice on some thoughts about turning 75, is you're a lot closer to the end than you are to the beginning. So you've got a limited number of days left. You don't know how many. Nobody knows how many. I may live to be 100, but I doubt it. Somewhere along the line, my time is going to come. And so make the most of those days that you have left. Decide what's important to you. I always talk about going and sitting on a rock or a log or something out in the woods and having a talk with yourself, but you can do the same thing sitting in a dark room, turn off all the distractions, and decide what's important to you. What do you want to achieve? What could you do better? You know, I've gone through a lot of changes. Spiritual awakening, oh my golly, that's a whole nother subject. I want to reshoot. I shot a video over on my partner's channel quite a while ago about what happened there, and I'm thinking real seriously about reshooting it here for this one. I put some links on a couple of my Bigfoot videos to tie back to that, but that was an amazing experience, and it opened my eyes to the fact that I'm not near as smart as I thought I was in that regard. And I've had a bunch of things happen now that just tells me that yeah, I just wasn't following. I don't think I was an evil person, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs or anything like that. In fact, in that regard, I'm probably kind of boring. But that whole thing was absolutely a stunning awakening to me. And once again, I don't want to get into that here, but where I'm going with this is just to, make amends with the man upstairs. Don't be afraid of the end of your day, unless you've been a bad person your whole life. I think I've probably been a whole lot better. I guess if you put all the pros and cons of what I've done in my life, I think the pros outweigh the cons, and hopefully I'm right, and so that when my day's done here, then I'm going to go to a better place. Yeah, I'm not real, I don't care what happens to my body when I die, because my belief is my body's not me. That's just the box I come in. And, they can chop me up and feed me the hogs when I'm done. I don't care. But anyway, I guess I'm kind of rambling, and I didn't really intend to do that. If you see this, you'll know I decided I liked it. And if you don't see it, then obviously I'll reshoot it another time. This is my first take on this today. Like I said, I sat down out here a couple of days ago, and I tried to get my mind together, and I just couldn't do it. And I came back out here again yesterday, and I just couldn't get my synapses in my brain to synapse correctly, and I couldn't keep my mind on what I was thinking about. And even this little discussion has been all over the place, but try to make the best of what you got left. Try to be positive. Try to love more than hate. There's way too much hate going on in the world right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are professing to love one another, and all you got to do is look at what they're doing, and they're not loving each other. They're spreading hate and discontent, and there's a lot of violence in the world, and there's a lot of supposedly religious people that are trying to kill their way to heaven, and I don't think that works. So try to be a good person. Try to take care of yourself. You're the most important person in your life. Try to understand your place in the good Lord's world, and where you fit, and whether you're a good fit, whether you've been good, whether you're not. If there's some things that you think you should have probably done different, it's probably not too late to think about that and try to make some changes. So I guess with that, I'll tell you like I always do, and take care of each other and love each other. And for about the 10th time, I guess, in this video, I'll tell you take care of yourself. And I'm going to review this and see if I think it's worth putting up. And so I guess until I see you again, I've got a couple more rattling around in my head, but I'll tell you what, when you live long enough to turn 35, I wish I was 30. I don't know if I wish I was 35 or not. I would love to be 35 and know what I know now. Let's just say that. But once you turn 75, boy, that really smacks you in the face, and you start realizing that, like in my case, I don't mind being called a senior, but I tell you what, I definitely don't like being called elderly, and I don't look upon myself as that. But it is really, really spooky one day to wake up and all of a sudden realize that you're the same age as old people, and my friends, I am there. So until I talk to you again, I guess nothing more to tell you than have a wonderful day. And whether this storm's supposed to move out tonight, we're supposed to get 3 days worth of Chamber of Commerce weather, and then we got another one coming in. If you can imagine that. So for right now, let me just tell you, peace out.